President Joe Biden gave his first national address and said that a Philadelphia woman told him, well, let's let Mr. Biden tell the story.
Last summer, I was in Philadelphia and I met a small business owner, a woman. I asked her, I said, "What do you need most?" Never forget what she said to me. She said, looking me in the eye, she said, "I just want the truth. The truth. Just tell me the truth." Think of that.
I just want the truth. You know, like the way he's been lying for decades about his civil rights record.
When I was 17 years old, like many of you, I participated in sit-ins to desegregate the restaurants and movie houses of Wilmington, Delaware. I came out of the civil rights movement. I was one of those guys that sat in and marched and all that stuff. During the 60s, I was, in fact, very concerned about the civil rights movement. I was not an activist. I worked at an all-black swimming pool in the east side of Wilmington, Delaware. I was involved in what they were thinking, what they were feeling. I was involved, but I was not out marching. I was not down in Selma. I was not anywhere else. I was a suburbanite kid who got a dose of exposure to what was happening to black Americans when I'm in my own city.
You know, when I was a teenager in Delaware, for real, I got involved in the civil rights movement. We have the 8th largest black population in America. Most people don't know that. And I'd go to 8 o'clock Mass, then I'd go to Reverend Herring's church where we'd meet in order to organize and figure where we were going to go, whether we were going to desegregate the Rialto movie theater or what we were going to do. I got my education for real in the black church. And that's not hyperbole, it's a fact. But I got my education, Reverend Doc, in the black church, not a joke. Because when we used to get organized on Sundays to go out and desegregate movie theaters and things like that, we do it through the black church.
New York Times reports, quote, more than once, advisors had gently reminded Mr. Biden of the problem with this formulation. He had not actually marched during the civil rights movement, and more than once, Mr. Biden assured them that he understood and kept telling the story anyway.
I just want the truth. The truth. Just tell me the truth. Think of that.
Or when he said the NAACP endorsed him in all of its races.
Look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run.
Think of that.
Or when he said he got arrested trying to visit Nelson Mandela when Nelson Mandela was in prison during apartheid South Africa.
This day, 30 years ago, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and entered into discussions about apartheid. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador at the streets of Soweto to get to see him on Robben's Island.
I came back from South Africa trying to see Nelson Mandela and getting arrested for trying to see him on Robben's Island. He was in prison. Think of that.
Elder here for Birch Gold. As one of the top dealers of physical precious metals in the United States, Birch Gold Group helps Americans diversify their savings with gold and silver. Customers can purchase for physical possession or convert a portion of their IRA or 401k into an IRA backed by physical precious metals. And for the first time since Obama's first term, we are facing a democratically controlled White House, Senate, and House. Sounds like a lot of tax and spending to me. Get ready for more so-called quantitative easing. Now, how does that affect your investment? How does that affect the strength of your portfolio? So, contact Birch Gold Group to request a free info kit on physical precious metals. See if diversifying into gold makes sense for you. This comprehensive 20-page kit reveals how gold and silver can protect your savings and how you can legally move your IRA or 401k out of risky stocks and bonds into a precious metals IRA. To get your no-cost, no-obligation kit, text Larry to 474747. That's text Larry to 474747. Or about when Joe Biden falsely said publicly twice that the man who tragically struck and killed his first wife and daughter was drunk when he did so. The man was not drunk. If anything, the investigator, now a judge, says that Joe Biden's first wife was likely the fault of the accident.
Just a week before Christmas 1972, the wife of newly elected Senator Joe Biden and their baby daughter were killed, and their two sons badly injured when the Biden family car was broadsided by a truck at this intersection in Delaware. The truck driver, Curtis Dunn, was never charged in the crash, but his daughter, Pam Hamill, says he too suffered.
He grieved over that. He was haunted and tormented by that for years.
Dunn died in 1999, but since then his family has endured widespread rumors and reports that he had been drinking just before the collision. At least twice, Biden himself has made public references to alcohol being involved in the crash. In 2007, Biden said the truck driver, quote, allegedly drank his lunch. And multiple news outlets, including CBS News, have reported that Dunn was drunk.
The truth is, it was a tragic accident. No alcohol was involved.
The police reports have been lost, but Delaware Judge Jerome Herlihy, who investigated the crash, supports Hamill. He tells CBS News there was no indication that the truck driver had been drinking. Last fall, a spokesman for Biden said Biden fully accepts the Dunn family's word that these rumors were false. Now, Pam Hamill simply wants the record to be cleared.
He was a good, hardworking man and a wonderful father.
And her father's reputation restored.
Think of that.
Or more recently, when he said he came into the White House and found the cupboard was bare, there was absolutely no plan for the manufacturing and distribution of the coronavirus vaccine.
It's important for the American people to know what we inherited when the president came into office. And what he inherited was not enough supply, not enough vaccinators, not enough places for vaccinations to happen. Communities had been left to fend for themselves. And so that's what he's been focused on and working on.
There was no stockpile, right? It's in many ways
no stockpile
of vaccines, right? So we're looking at this. There was no national strategy or plan for vaccinations. We were leaving it to the states and local leaders to try and figure it out. And so in many ways, we're starting from scratch.
The biggest thing, though, as you remember, when you and I shouldn't say it that way, as you remember, but when you and I talked last, we talked about, it's one thing to have the vaccine, which we didn't have when we came into office, but a vaccinator. How do you get the vaccine into someone's arm?
But wait! We certainly are not starting from scratch because there is activity going on in the distribution. But if you look at the plan that the president has put forth, about the things that he is going to do, namely get community vaccine centers up, get pharmacies more involved, where appropriate, get the Defense Production Act involved, not only perhaps with getting more vaccine, but even the things you need to get a good vaccine program. For example, needles and syringes that might be more useful in that. So it's taking what's gone on, but amplifying it in a big way.
Think of that.
And of course, we're quite familiar with Joe Biden's history of honesty. Remember when he serially plagiarized speeches and for some reason thought he was going to get away with it?
But this standard is not a measure of how we can evaluate the condition of our society. It cannot measure the health of our children, the quality of our education, the joy of their play.
Yet the gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play.
Let us pledge that our generation of Americans will pay any price, bear any burden, accept any challenge, and meet any hardship to secure the blessings of prosperity and the promise of opportunity for our children.
We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
And I started thinking as I was coming over here, why is it that Joe Biden is the first in his family ever to go to a university?
Why am I the first Kinnick in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Glenys the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
No, it's not because they weren't as smart. It's not because they didn't work as hard. It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
Does anybody really think that they didn't get what we had because they didn't have the talent or the strength or the endurance or the commitment? Of course not. It was because there was no platform upon which they could stand.
Think of that.
And let us not forget, he was this close to being kicked out of law school for plagiarism. He threw himself on the mercy of the law school dean and they allowed him to stay in. But hey, he ain't Donald Trump, right? And as far as the media are concerned, that's all that matters. Now, don't forget, I've been demonetized by YouTube. So to continue getting me uncensored and on demand, go to larrytube.com. That's larrytube.com. And don't forget, we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.